Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the third episode of the newly launched ICM podcast. And we actually need to start today's episode with a big congratulations to Cal. He's not expecting this, but he has officially, judging by what I heard about 30 minutes ago, become a dad. Because before we went into the launching of this, Cal went to stand up from his chair and he must have been a little bit too close to his mic, and all I could hear was the most dad noise ever where he stood up. And all I heard going out my speaker was just, oh. apparently you're already there, mate, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. It all seems very real now.
It's like flicking a switch overnight, you wake up, you're like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
We've made it
finally.
How long to go now? Is it what?
How long to go, Anne? 12 weeks. I just have to refer to Hannah every time I want to know. 12 weeks.
Not that you had to ask.
12 weeks out right now. We're feeling good.
Yeah.
Got another scan tomorrow. And then
You got the timeline mapped out?
Timeline's mapped out. Post-show phase is ready. So, yeah, everything's good to go.
The peak's prepped?
Oh, yeah. All day long.
Are you travelling on the day to be there? Or are you going to be doing it over WhatsApp?
Probably WhatsApp, Zoom or WhatsApp, depending on what's got the best Wi-Fi. I've obviously discussed this with Han, but yeah, I'll probably WhatsApp in, then get home as soon as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It saves on travel, doesn't it? It's easier. Just use the excuse. I can actually do it better over the phone rather than being there. Just bring out one of those.
Maybe it's less stress if I'm not there.
Yeah, you haven't got a backstage pass though, as well, have you? So...
No, well, I couldn't afford it. It's too expensive.
But as always, it's a good ridiculous start to these. We've got a good theme. Now it's got even better. To be fair, I think this is the longest I've ever seen Coops not bark for in 3 seconds.
Yeah, he's not barking today. He's got all of his barking out from Magic Eye being here earlier.
Oh, bless him.
How
old's Coops now?
How old's Coops, Anne? 3.
Cal, do you just want to, if you stand up for your chair, you go get a hand and I'll do the podcast with her.
Let me give Cooper this plate with this potato on it, and then I can start.
Has he got the rest of your tuna?
Yeah, he's got tuna plate. Go on. Right, we're good.
There we go.
Good.
Anyone who's watching the recording of this as well, we've got some fancy new technology, so hopefully you enjoy.
I don't know how this is going to end up though on the screen. Like, how is this going to look on the screen?
I don't know. It hopefully good is the first one. It's crazy how we've been going online for so long, and the amount of hours we probably both put into working on our laptops, and we still can't work the most basic things.
Yeah, it's above me. It's beyond me.
A lot of the time, it's like, how does this work? It's like, oh, just Google it, mate, and it's great.
Just start and hope for the best, and just adjust as you go.
Exactly, the wing it approach. That's how we live quite a lot of both of our lives. But no, in genuine matters, so we're recording this on the 9th of January. We've just had one of our biggest content launches so far, which is very exciting. Part of that is obviously a new section that you have brought in. So the foundations of prep coaching, which has been something that's been in the pipeline for a little bit, but it's finally come to fruition, which is good. Do you want to, for anyone who is not a member, not signed up, why aren't you? But also anyone who isn't here, do you want to give them a little bit of a rundown in terms of what you've put together and what has been uploaded?
Yeah, so the Prep Coach Foundations will basically run through it's just giving you my thought process and methodology on how I prep my athletes through contest prep and how I configure and manage off-season phases for athletes. So like where you would be from the start point of a coaching process in terms of the initial athlete, screening, timeline creation, and like backtracking from the goal. The steps that I would take to essentially take that athlete onto stage from off-season through to prep, and then even within that peaking situation, how I would peak an athlete in the considerations there, and also the post-show considerations and post-show management. So it will go from like day one of the athlete starting all the way through that kind of lifespan of an athlete in pre-prep phase, prep, off-season pre-prep phase, prep, post-show. So there's 7 lectures there, and yeah, it's like it is. I wanted to make it a foundations module in terms of not being too not being too heavy with it, but some of the lectures are pretty deep there in terms of depth, but I think that's just going to be more value in the first place. And I think the way I've delivered it with the slides and the queuing of that, and then everything being applied practically with real life case studies where possible, like it does make things more understandable in terms of application there, and you can see it in person with clients that I've used for those case studies in real life settings. So that would be a big one, I think, for a lot of people that have wanted something there for that. It ticks the box to start to get stuck into that side.
I think, as you said, it's a foundations module, but I don't think any of this stuff is ever going to be basics. It can't
No.
be at that level. Like that's why the way we've set things up is that it's almost like walking you through it. Like we've basically now got 3 sections where we've got gem pop transformations. So you're working with as we've been through in the first couple of episodes. I can't remember the lady's name that you worked with at M10, but the lady who dropped 40 kilos, kind of that sort of level where it's what are the basic things you think about to get someone losing a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Then it's moving up into more advanced. Then it's moving into photo shoots, and now it's into prep. So
yeah,
no, it's a really, really cool section. I went through some of the videos of the day. It's set out really well for anyone who hasn't been through it so far. Where as you said, it's basically like it's like an athlete's journey from the coach's perspective, which is really cool. So taking on a client, what are the first things that you look into, kind of almost from an assessment standpoint? What are those fundamental factors? All the way through. So really, really cool.
That'd be a decent one. That.
Are there any more plans to add to that? Do you reckon, or is it a case of we kind of do it depending on what people want and what people need?
Yeah, I think if it's very well received, then there's definitely expansions of that we can do, and more application based stuff where you could go into more depth with focusing on just one area and doing a module on one part, just in more depth, if that makes sense. So if it was like the training side for more, for the athlete training side, more advanced programming for physique athletes, or whether it's blood work management or health management for physique athletes. Like if I pulled one element out, then you could do lectures on that just in greater detail and depth and expand upon that. So yeah, there's definitely scope to continue building it for sure.
Just rabbit hole central, isn't it, to a certain extent, with that sort of stuff. And it's not the kind of thing that you can just do a 20-minute lecture on and cover.
No.
Is the issue. But that's also why we've added content to everything so far, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like everything's had more stuff come in because we've realised there's more stuff people want to learn. Like one of the bits that I put into coaching foundations this drop was starting to go down more the PT route, because quite a lot of the stuff on the entire site so far is very online heavy. So it's now looking at it as right. There are going to be as many, if not more, PTs out there. And obviously we've started our journey within the industry as PTing for 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
How do we actually get that skill set up to speed? And as we then develop that skill set, get kind of personal training standards as high as we can, online coaching is so much easier.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like not easier as a comparison between the two, but it's easier. I found making that transition into it when you actually have that PT skill set first. Like the way I normally describe it to people is if you are able to, for example, like see one rep of a set from someone in person, you can cue that person, you can change setup, you can change all those various different details, and if you can do that through words, you're going to be able to do it in written form. You can look at exercise footage, you can analyze things and change it. But if you haven't had that experience of doing it in the first place, it's damn tough. Yeah. Because it's almost like you've kind of got the picture of what a perfect exercise should look like. You've got what someone's doing now, and it's like, well, how am I actually going to get that comparison between the two? How am I going to move them across? So that's a cool thing we brought in as well. Kind of second bit we're adding in, and then that feeds quite nicely into obviously in-person stuff, which is also coming later on this year. So our first in-person event, and it's, by the sounds of things, a pretty damn big one. Yeah, it will be a UK. I won't say a date yet, just until we've actually locked in the venue, and we also know the size of the venue as well. But it will be UK based. It will be in September, and it will be in collaboration with a good friend of mine, which will be like I guess more so from a businessy type standpoint on that side. But we'd be coming in and coaching the depths of the bulk of the coaching related content, and that's going to be sponsored and hosted by the ICM, which will be really exciting. I know a lot I've missed in-person stuff as well.
Yeah, I know. I definitely want to do a lot more of that. We did like Amsterdam and a few others last year, but we didn't do as much. And I definitely want to do more of that this year.
There's nothing quite like getting people in a room together. Like,
Yeah,
it's just almost that next level to it, isn't it? And I always think people learn better in person too.
yeah.
I probably shouldn't say that because
Well,
our platform is entirely recorded lectures. But
yeah. I think sometimes it's not practical to teach in person for everything that you do, like everything that we do. But that's why we do it in that format with the kind of webinar, live lecture type situations where you can, like on the video stuff, you can articulate a lot of points really well instead of just written text. If they were like making their own, I remember when I used to do, can't remember what course it was. I think it might have been, remember Phil Lerney's AG, what's it called?
ACA, the Advanced Coaching
ACA.
Academy.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I first did the ACA, that was all. It was all just text. None of it was video format. It was all just text reading, wasn't it?
yeah.
And I remember doing that years and years ago. Like precision nutrition was all text related. So now we have the ability to articulate with video. I think it does make a big impact there.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, it complements it even further if you can get some stuff in person too.
It's also audio, mate. I find that way easier to learn from. Like, I
Yeah,
would much rather go for a walk, podcast in my ears, or whatever it might be, like listening to it, rather than like sitting down and constantly feeling like you're reading a book.
yeah.
Because you kind of get to the stage where you're almost like reading it for the sake of it and going over text for the sake of it. Whereas if you're actually listening to a conversation or listening to someone speaking, like,
Yeah.
it's starting to go in now.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have a very exciting start to it and a very exciting year in general coming up, which is going to be really cool. I tell you what, another thing that'd be quite interesting to hear your thoughts on, mate, are obviously we're start of 2025. We did a kind of a brief post reflecting a little bit on 2024 on kind of your year with coaching, with results obviously incredibly successful. What would you say are the biggest lessons that you learned in 2024?
I think 2024 is probably the first time where I didn't have I think like 2020 to 2023 was like a bit of a frenzy there in terms of I didn't really set specific goals and timeframes to manage things. I just kind of like went hell for leather and just thought like, all right, let's see what we can do in terms of like launching stuff and growing stuff. And there was it was obviously organized, but it wasn't like, if you saw it behind the scenes, it was just more so like work like a dog for as long as possible and make things work and grow it that way. I think last year was probably the first year, and the end of 2023, but last year particularly was the first year where it was a lot more systematic in terms of approach. There was deadlines to things, there was time frames that I wanted to complete things by, and that shone obviously through the ICM and through the team as well. And obviously Zoe being one of the catalysts for allowing that to work, just because it allowed for better organisation on all fronts there. I think that was probably the biggest thing, and I think that in turn has given me the ability to have more control over. It's not like I'm working less, but I have more control over having more balance with work and being able to have a bit of a life around it. If that makes sense as well? Because it's not like just work for as long as you can every day. It's more so, right, these are the blocks that you need to be really productive in, and then you also need time for yourself where you can go back to work after this and operate 100%. And I spent a large part of 2020, the end of 2022, and probably all of 2023, probably operating at 80%. But because I was working 20-hour days, didn't matter because everything got done anyway. Whereas last year was more so like I want to get back to operating at 100%. And getting stuff done even more efficiently, but then allow myself to then have time for me to be able to maintain that, if that makes sense.
Completely, yeah. Is that hard to do? Because you've almost
I
like from
think
the
it
outside looking in, like I
wasn't
know.
necessarily hard to do, but I was almost like forced to do it because I couldn't really continue to function like I was functioning.
Yeah, because it's interesting from the outside looking in on that. Because you've done podcasts. I remember one of the old ones with Bridgman, Brightman, and Tom Moore, where it was literally going through like 18-hour days that you're working. It's almost like it's sometimes difficult to move away from that identity a little bit, where you kind of
Yeah,
like, and whether it's in your own head or whether it's kind of like thoughts about the outside looking in, where you're like, well, I'm still, as you said, doing as much and getting through as much stuff. But
yeah,
sometimes it's hard in those moments where you're not working, being like, oh, what do I do now?
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
am I doing with this hour?
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
just
things like golf have probably been quite good for that as well. Like actually having other things, so you've got that balance, quote
yeah,
unquote.
getting back into like training consistently. 4 or 5 days a week. Starting to play golf has been really helpful. Having more time, even though she'll probably say like bullshit in the other room, having more time to spend with Han. She'll be like, "What time's that?"
Yeah, she doesn't see that
Having,
as a positive.
yeah, well, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think you got some more work to do this evening. I want to watch it.
Yeah, just having more time to nurture other things in life alongside work, and I think once you can find balance there of being uber productive when you need to be, and still working is just as hard, but also not seeing it as like I'd rather work smarter and just as hard than just try and work harder, if that makes sense.
Yes, because there's always going to be a limit to that, isn't there?
Because like you just end up, you'll slow down and get less efficient the longer you try and do that for.
You know what's interesting, and we touched on this a little bit before we actually hit record. I've actually had the really similar thing this year, but in a different sense, because with being out in Oz and with working hours now being a little bit different, so having that window of time during the day where people go to bed, and even just their lifestyle out here being a little bit different, so having, similar to like I said with you with golf, like having more stuff away from work, it actually is really easy to have a bit more of a discrepancy between the two. So,
Yeah.
like for example, if I don't know, it's an evening where I don't have a call, I don't have check-ins, I don't have other like formal things that are like appointment driven I need to be on.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I get all my other work that I need to do during the day, I can then have that period of time where George and I can go for a walk down to the beach, or we can go and do something else, rather than just kind of getting stuck in that like endless
Yeah.
loop of work, exist, work, exist, work.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't think I would have done that without literally moving 10,000 miles away. But
Yeah,
it's
it like almost
one of those
forces
things
your hand to do it in the first place.
100%, 100%. And now I've done it, it's like, oh, this is great. This like, I'll get up in the mornings now. Normally come in here pretty quickly. Come into my office. Got my to-do list ready for the day. Like I've got like a book that's always next to me where I can be like, right, these are the tasks that I need to get through. I'll have my Google Calendar as well, so or Apple Calendar that has appointments and stuff in there. And it's like, right, perfect. I just do them. Like they go through, and I say that the quicker I get them done, and the more efficient I can be time-wise, the more other things I can fit in, which I don't want to miss
Yeah.
on while we're here.
Yeah.
And it's just you get so much more satisfaction working that way as well, knowing
Yeah.
that oh, perfect, this task is actually being done damn well, rather than like doing it for a little bit, or like staring at the wall for a minute, doing it for a little bit, staring at the wall
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Exactly. You can get twice as much done if you can operate twice as efficiently. But if you're operating at 50%, then you're going to get 50% less done.
Yeah, well, it's like I forget what the saying for it is called, but it's how the I remember hearing this on Modern Wisdom. I'm not going to suddenly start quoting things like like Chris Williamson, but like there's that whole thing about the time that you have available to do a task, you'll always fill it. And it's if you have 3 hours or you have 30 minutes,
Yeah.
it's going to take a long time, or it's going to be pretty short and sharp. And suddenly, if you have a bit going on, it means that you're way more efficient.
Yeah.
I also think that's probably a tough thing for quite a lot of coaches out there. I imagine there's probably a lot of people at work, especially who have come from the gym floor and are now working online and have gone from an appointment-based life into now having complete control of their day. They're kind of sitting there being like, yeah, that's one of the hardest parts that you don't think about.
Yeah. You still need to approach it with that same structure, with that same right. I need to be working on something, even if you don't have clients or check-ins to do, if you don't have many clients yet and you're trying to build a business, still set yourself a time to, right, I'm going to start work at this time on these days across the week. I'm going to end work at this time, or that's where I'm going to start to try and switch off. But then, the ability to actually switch off in the first place, if you feel as though you have been maximally productive across the day, you can have peace of mind when you shut your computer at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., whatever it might be, that I've actually done enough now and I'm excited to wake up tomorrow morning and do it again. And if you don't have the clients and the check-ins to do, like you're going to be, right, I'm going to spend my time studying, I'm going to spend my time writing content for social media, I'm going to spend my time doing, lead generation type stuff. And then, that gradually molds into then having a balance over work with clients and that as well. But if you're in that kind of 5, 10, 15 clients at the moment, then the large majority of your day is not going to be client work because you're going to get that done pretty quickly and efficiently. But it could be like, what do I need to do to then get more clients? And it's going to be knowledge application and nurturing that side a couple of hours a day, and then putting that out there and social media stuff and social assets to bring more eyes on you to generate the business.
And as soon as you develop that, when clients then start coming through the door, you realise that the client work is actually easier stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do this for, realistically, isn't it? Like if it's,
Yeah.
I love those mornings where you wake up and you've got X amount of messages to get back to, check-ins that you need to do. Oh, I've got X amount of calls in the evening. It might be with time difference out here. Like sweet, I can't wait for that. The tougher days are the ones where it's actually like I've got quite a lot of gaps in my day here.
Yeah.
And I've got other things that I need to get through, like almost like the less sexy stuff to what we do.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like peak of the PT days, the number of hours that you do is wild, but you don't really notice it because you just go a bit robot mode. Where you're like, oh, I've got to be in the gym at 6, and I've got this at 7, I've got this at 8.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just be there. Obviously, you have to
turn up,
put some for a session, but like you're not in control of those things. You just have to kind of follow through with it.
Yeah.
So I actually found quite a lot easier. And then when you move to online, you're like, well, I've got entire control of my day here.
Yeah.
It's up to me if I do it or I don't.
Yeah. It's very easy to fill blank time with blank things, isn't it? Like if you've got all the time in the world, it's very easy to be very unproductive with that time. Whereas sometimes the less time you have, the more productive you can be because there's urgency there. But you've got to try and create that urgency by diarising your day to fill it with things that are productive.
Yes, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, you only really learn this stuff by getting it wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
By realising actually I need to be more specific with stuff, otherwise I'm not gonna get through anything.
Yeah, like the end of every day and the end of every week, you can like take a bit of a gut check and be like, what have I actually accomplished today, or what have I accomplished this week that I didn't do last week, or I got done this week and that I'm satisfied with. And if you can't really string many things together, then you're obviously just wasting time and you're in a position where you could be doing more. So if you're really in this business to scale and get better and start mastering your craft, you need to try and get as many of those little wins as possible across the week. Because I it's pretty right in saying that if you finish every day and every week with those wins, your passion for it in the first place and your love for it and your energy for it probably improves and increases with that, because it's like, fucking hell, I'm getting a lot done here. Like I'm achieving quite a lot within my days and within my weeks. That's going to lead to momentum, and momentum leads to good things at the end of the day with that side.
It's like a snowball effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you get more done, you get more satisfaction because you got more done. You then want to get even more done. It's kind of like this endless loop. Well, like my week this week, what is it? The first couple of days this week were carnage because we had content drop. Like the start of the year is always busy.
Nicotine overdose.
A nicotine overdose, yeah, we'll come on to that in a sec. It wasn't even, I'm not even going to go through those just because it was the most pathetic nicotine overdose ever. But it was like content drop, like all the like admin behind the scenes stuff for that. Start of the year, and like I had quite a few calls with people last week to get things ready for this year, just to kind of catch up with them. And that means that there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, a lot of tinkers that need to get put into place. It's just this list comes through. So it forced my hand a little bit to get this bit done. But I was like, this is flipping brilliant. This is great, and it's you realise that you can get through so much more stuff if you're efficient, but also you're just excited for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You suddenly you get up in the morning, you're like, oh, my alarm has to be early this morning because I need to get these things done. But equally, I can't wait to sit in here. I'm like, great. I'll put my headphones on, get myself set, get everything ready, set a little Pomodoro timer, and just be like, right, go.
Yeah,
get through some stuff. And then accidentally take too much nicotine and feel really like horrifically sick.
How much did you take? Like, be honest. How many milligrams?
Oh, mate, 5 milligrams. So I've got those little, those Nicorette lozenges.
Yeah.
And my sweet spot I've found, if I need to get things done, is 2 double espressos, a little bit of lion's mane, and a little bit of nicotine, and that's me like. I'm like stimulated, like going for stuff, but I'm also, it's the right way, because I find if I just overstim, I just get distracted.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I need to pee every 10 minutes, but also I'm like, I can't focus on stuff because it just gets a bit scatty. So like, if I have lion's mane there, it just kind of settles things a little bit. And I was actually recording one of the ICM lectures. So anyone who's on the platform, go back to.
When it happened, you were recording it.
So as in like I with the lozenges, the way I do it is I'll just have them in my mouth, similar to how you get those Zim pouches, like you can put them in your gums. I'll just kind of
Yeah.
like put them in my mouth and like I don't want to chew them when I'm talking because I look I'm like a psychopath. Um, but I was like, right, in the managing programming in a busy gym. Of course you're going to record this. In managing programming in a busy
I'm
gym.
just taking a photo.
Managing programming in a busy gym, I was at the point where I had my second lozenge. I think I had the one like 10 minutes beforehand. And I was like, I feel great here. Like I can obviously make myself feel better. And I remember in that lecture, it's about 20 minutes long, I started sweating. And I was just sitting there, I was like, this isn't great here. And it was a warm day here anyway, and it was about lunchtime. And I got to the end of the lecture and I was like, I don't know how good that is. Watched through it and it's one of the best ones I've done. I was like, sweet. Put the aircon on and just lay down in my office for like 5 minutes. And I was like, this isn't good.
It's starting to dissipate.
Yeah. But no, mate, I was, you know, in your head, you're like, I don't know how, I know the half-life of nicotine is about 2 or 3 hours. I don't know though if this is the worst of it or it's going to be.
It's gonna,
like,
it's gonna go back around.
It's going to peak from here because I was like, if it's like this, I can ride this wave. But I don't know what's going to happen. So I ended up just having a walk around. But all the aircon in our the apartment, I had to go for a lie down. Tried to watch some stuff on my phone. Couldn't do that because it was too close. Made me feel worse. Ended up listening to a podcast and just lying down like sideways on my bed. And luckily fell asleep and then was fine.
Fucking hell.
And I was like, I got so much stuff done in the morning. That was the worst bit. Between like 6 and 12.
Well, at least you were productive for the first part, and then you kind of got it to be done.
And yeah, one of my many stories about accidentally ridiculous things that I've managed to do. Do you remember the? This is a bit of a throwback. Do you remember we used to do those Instagram lives in lockdown?
Yes.
Yeah. And there was one with me, you, and James. And
when you passed out, that's probably the single greatest moment of a Zoom call ever created.
It was worse. It was worse than a Zoom call. It was Instagram. So
it was an Instagram live. Wasn't
I can remember being on screen, and I don't know what this camera's going to pick up, but I remember just being like, I'm in a bad way here. And I don't even know why. Like I can't remember what it was that like knocked me out of whack. And I remember just being like, I was on my chair, like trying to get off screen, just trying to be like, I need to get out. And then I think I just heard you be like, ow.
Why did that happen? Did you go hyper or something?
I honestly don't. I think it was a mixture of a few things. I think I'd gone a little bit hypo and I was really hot in my the office I was working at. We'd had another call beforehand as well. We were going through the RTS like online. I can't remember what Michael called it, but an online thing there, which had been long and like
a study
demanding.
Thing.
And it was just that dehydrated, just a bit like you have those points where you just a bit like and lay down on my bed for like 5 minutes, and I was fine. Felt like a right gimp though. I was like, why? Why does that have to be on live? Like
that was in Jimbo's COVID gym. That was.
Yes, it was. That's when Ava was a little pup, wasn't she? And just terrorising you guys. You know what's interesting about that though? That was the first time I ever spoke to Ross. Because
how was it?
I put up a story the next day, basically being like, I'm alive. Because obviously I had to announce to my 7 followers that I was alive. And Ross replied and like put a really nice message, and I was like, oh, I like this guy. So yeah, good.
You live to tell the tale.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, 5 milligrams of nicotine nearly killed me this week. I dread to think if we did the same thing with you. Some of the ropey situations you've got yourself into.
There's been some.
Yeah,
for me, it's actually quite life-threatening though. So
yours is legit dangerous. Mine's like if I take enough to knock out like a 6-year-old girl, then I might get a bit affected by it. Which is
there's been some good stories. The story of well, I remember when we first launched ProCoach. I'm pretty sure there was 2 days that I didn't sleep. Then when I was trying to launch remember Dan Luke helped us launch ProCoach at the start.
It's because we had to get all the client
transfers of client
download and re-upload every single one, and I think I remember rightly, you had about 7 million clients.
Yeah,
so
it was pretty long-winded to do it as well. It took you 10 minutes per client.
Well, I was up till 3. Ross and Rye was similar. And then I went to bed for a little bit, got up at like 7, and you were like, I'm still here, lads.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I reckon that was probably 2 solid full days there where I didn't sleep for 2 days. I've done that quite. I've done one days a lot. Like I've done a lot of one days in my life. Like I can handle that. You feel groggy the next day, but you can carry it pretty well. 2 days is grim. There was one time where we went to Ukraine before the war. Went to Ukraine for a show. I'll just note before the war. I haven't gone there after.
This is the best podcast we've ever done. So hopefully you guys are liking this one.
We went to Ukraine and we went to a pro qualifier in Ukraine. Funnily enough, like it's crazy to think. Like I bet the place that we stayed in with the Airbnb was probably not even there anymore. Like it's nuts to even think. But we turned up at the airport, and I remember that morning I had taken a cognitive substance that I won't say the name of at about 5 a.m. before the flight. And during the flight, obviously I wasn't going to sleep in the flight, but during the flight I was staring at my laptop doing work, and my eyes were starting to point in different directions. Like it felt like one of my eyes was like starting to move the other way that I wanted to control it, like to the point where I couldn't even control my focus. So I was like, right, whatever I've just taken is legit. So we get to Ukraine, we get to Kiev airport, and it's about 45 minutes away from the city. And the individual that I was with put on his Instagram stories, we need to get a taxi or a lift from Kiev airport to this location. Can anyone help us? And about 30 minutes passed, and then 2 blacked out BMWs parked in front of us at the airport. And these 2 big blokes got out of there and were like saying Ukrainian language.
Sorry,
And I thought
just repeat what they said.
I can't say it word for word. I could give it a go, but I can't say it word for word. And I thought we were like being abducted or something. I was like, right, it's kicking off. Like you take him and I'll take the other lad. Because it was like getting towards nighttime. And these lads picked us up from the airport and took us shopping, offered to pay for the shopping that we went to the supermarket with, dropped us at the Airbnb, and then took us on an evening, like, didn't take them because they're on prep, but were like, do you want to go to an evening meal? Do you want to go and see something in the evening? Like, the most, like, hospitable people you'll ever met in your life. So, like, the landlady of this apartment they were fucking great people. But that was the trip where I didn't really know much about Ukraine at that point. I didn't really know the conflicts that had been there for a long period of time. And then when everything kicked off, I was like, oh, it all kind of makes sense. The show happened on the weekend, and about halfway through the show, because it was in a big shopping centre, like really nice shopping centre, like it was like a Waitrose type, not Waitrose, but it was like a nice big supermarket downstairs, so it was easy for the athletes to like get the stuff they needed. About halfway through, load of blokes walked in the hall with AK-47s, like rifles. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, probably seven or 8 guys, like, fully kitted out with rifles. And they all started shouting. I have no idea what they were shouting. And I was like, is this what I think it is? Because this is pretty intense. And then somebody that was from Ukraine was like, oh, don't worry, bro. Happens every week. It's basically the whole building was being shut down because there was a bomb scare. And these were armed police, or like from the army, that were coming in to clear the building. And we had to sit outside in the car park for this squad to go in and basically scan the building and take sniffer dogs in there and stuff. And about an hour and a half later, we got back in and the show started again. But the local there that was like boys with us for the weekend was like, yeah, man, it happens every weekend.
It's just normal. You're there,
and obviously, when everything kicked off, I was like, obviously, there's been unrest there for a long period of time, but it's crazy, like absolutely nuts. But yeah, the people there are absolutely lovely. But that was a good story. That was completely unrelated to anything we just spoke about. But
yeah, I like how you were talking about your eyes going different directions, and then suddenly
I just thought I'd just go for it then. Just like, right, I'm gonna give you a story from the last couple of years.
I'm not gonna lie, you've outdone me a little bit there. I felt a little bit sick because I took a bit too much nicotine, and you almost got abducted and then nearly got shot.
The Tunisia story is also pretty good as well, but I won't go.
I feel like when it comes to the future, if we're going to tell stories, I feel like I shouldn't tell them. I did that this morning when I was a little bit tired. I didn't sleep for 3 days.
Alex was like, yeah, one time I nearly fainted on Instagram Live.
Or at least I go second. So you can't just hammer me with like, oh, do you want to hear something really cool?
Oh God!
Oh mate, they were the days. You know what I've just realised?
Go on.
We actually have some questions from a previous podcast episode that we've
Oh,
been through as
there
well.
you
So
go.
then at least we can actually give people some value.
Yeah.
And, you know, people will probably like this one as much as any of our episodes so far. But let me find them. I'm not gonna lie, because the podcasts I always like are the ones that are just ridiculous, where you just find out stuff about people. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Let me see what people asked. One of the ones we had before, which I don't know if we actually answered. What would you do if you weren't a coach?
I could tell you exactly what I'd do. I would be in the forces, or I would be in the police.
That's interesting.
So when I was at school, I did like my work experience, and like I did like I don't know if it's called an inset day, but I did it with the police because my uncle was a policeman for like 40 years. He's retired now, but I'd either be in the forces of some kind, or I'd be in the police.
I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, but
What were you expecting? That worries me a little bit.
no, I don't even know. I didn't have anything in mind. I was hoping you were going to say something like really just ridiculous.
I'd be a zookeeper.
Yeah, well, I was going to say like you're on like a cattery or something. To be fair, I can see you being a zookeeper. It could be a lion tamer, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd like that, to be fair.
To be fair, yeah, I know what you mean though. There's that like military side. I think every bloke to a certain extent is like, I could be a SEAL.
Yeah,
And then
you know, whenever you see stuff like that, you're like, that's a bit of me. That I fancy a bit of that.
Yeah. And there's always that. There's that bit of like, doesn't look that hard.
Yeah,
Surely.
30k run, could do that in my sleep, mate.
Yeah, yeah. We've been carrying a heavy rucksack. Have you not? If you've been carrying my laptop before, Jesus. To be fair, though, I've actually got a lot of work called Logan, who is an ex. I want to say he's ex-SEAL. He was in a parachute, not registered.
Oh, is it like a parachute regiment, like a UK guy or American?
No, US. So I can't remember what it's called in the US. I think it's got a different name.
Like a Navy SEAL or something.
Yeah, and I remember going through his consult form, and obviously one of the questions we asked like any injuries or any like history of stuff, and it's the first time I've ever seen someone just list the amount of shrapnel that's in them, and I was like, fair, like that's I don't think that's going to influence things too badly, but it's also still pretty cool to know.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it's like you say like I would fancy a bit of that, but then I think you change your tone quite quickly if you were actually in one of those situations. But I guess that's what you get trained for, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it becomes normal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A bit like I find the same thing. Have you ever had a personal training interview? Like when you started at M10, did you have to like a practice interview?
Yeah. I had an interview in front of Mark and James. I had to present 3 case studies, and the irony was it finished. I prepared these case studies for like fucking 3 weeks, and I was like, right, I'm going to pick these 3 clients. I'm going to write all this down, and I was like, any question they ask me, I've got it covered. So whatever they ask me, I'm going to have an answer for anything they say. And I did this interview, and it was like 15 minutes long. And then I was like, oh, that's pretty easy. I was like, yeah, we're already going to hire you anyway. We just did that because we said it the first time. I was like, it took me like 3 weeks to do that.
You've been sweating your way through this.
Shitting my pants. And I was like, yeah, we're already going to hire you anyway, so it didn't matter. I was like, oh, sweet, okay.
You're like, oh, cheers, boys. At least you didn't put them off anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I bet UP was pretty heavy with that.
Oh, mate, UP was... it wasn't actually that bad. There were 4 steps to it. So you had like initial application, and then you had to do a written case study, and then you had a theory interview and then a practical interview. I think it was that way around. But it wasn't actually that bad. I'm not gonna lie. After I started, it got easier because they started releasing books, so you could basically just copy and paste things from the books.
Right.
Like, oh, that's how I program for someone. But for me, it was more like, what do I know from having been through like the ICP 1 and stuff. But the best one was the practical interview because I was like, this is great, because you kind of go into like, work mode. You forget like where you are and what you're doing and stuff, and you're just like, I'm just going to train someone. Trained like called Reed Stafford, Reed, friends with James.
Yeah.
Really good lad, to be fair. Put him through a session, chatting to him a little bit, and he actually played a big part in me getting the job because I was like asking him questions, like chatting to him about stuff.
Does he have a gym now? Does he own a gym?
I don't know.
Because I knew he was at didn't he go to UP? And then he
Yeah,
went. I think didn't he go to Code? He went to Code Gym, which is near Nottingham. I might be completely wrong. If you listen to this, obviously, call me an idiot. But I remember in lockdown, he was buying loads of kit, like really good kit. He bought tons of kit. I'd see something that was for sale, and I think James Sutton was trying to buy it, or like he'd be speaking to Reed because he must have had like contacts with how to buy kit or something. But I seem to think that it might have either been a home gym, like a really good home gym, or he'd opened a gym. I can't remember.
I don't know because he was head trainer at Kensington, and
Yeah.
he took over all the the practical camps,
Yeah.
which were mate, fucking great fun because
Yeah, I
used
wish
to
I
go
actually went. I wish I went to one of those. That'd have been good fun.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was as good a fun coaching as you ever have. But the
Yeah.
best thing would be you would absolutely like obliterate people. So it's 3 sessions during the day. Like I did the last one I taught was lower body hypertrophy. So like you're just hammering people for like 30, 40 minutes
Yeah.
on basically a big circuit to give them the UP experience. And then Reed would try and teach them really in-depth like hypertrophy, anatomy, like all this extra stuff. And you got these people sitting there, and they can't even see. They've got no idea what's going on. They're trying not to be sick. And then
Yeah.
Reed's just like throwing questions at them. And if you asked them their own name, they wouldn't even be able to answer it. And they're just kind of sitting there being like, and then they train again. And for us guys, I think there was 6 of us and Reed leading it. We were just sitting on the outside, just like basically just laughing, being like, "This is
You
class."
used to. Well, I guess if you did the practical at the end, they're not going to be as in it to actually give their all as well. So if you're doing it 3 times a day, you have to do one in the morning anyway.
Yeah, I think it was like I can't remember exactly how it was structured, but the last one was the worst bit, so that people would literally be unable to get up the stairs. I think it was like lower body strength work, lower body. I think it was along the lines of like the strength work, hypertrophy work is the first
Yeah,
few
yeah.
sessions, and then into just a big circuit where it's like right. There were 2 lads there who were going through job interviews at UP as well.
Right.
They got absolutely mangled for about an hour.
So when you started working there, did you have to do one of the courses to then be able to work there or not?
No, so they weren't as big a thing at that point. A
Right.
lot of the stuff changed while I was there, so it was encouraged that you'd done some in-house education by the
Right,
time.
okay.
I think I'd been there for maybe a year, 18 months. But they
Yeah.
didn't have a huge amount. They had the practical days, but I think there were only 1 or 2 of them a year. So it wasn't an expectation to have done anything really with it. They didn't have the
Right.
book, they didn't have an online course, they didn't have anything else that they sold.
Right.
So it was more because obviously they were linked to Poliquin. It
Yeah.
was more, have you got the classic like it's not an
Oh, I
essential, but
see.
if you've done PICP or you've done a program design course, like it's going to be looked upon favourably.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that kind of carried me through because a lot of their programming is done just on Poliquin principles.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, you brought in GBC, so it's like right, that's a 12-week transformation programming done.
Yeah.
It works, but everything kind of follows that same path. But then
Yeah.
it changed into. I remember lads coming in. And I did a couple of interviews actually. I sat down and it's like right, you have to ask have they done a course of this? Have they bought the books? Ask them questions about the books. So it's actually not just I bought them and not done anything with it. Have you actually?
Yeah,
picked
yeah,
up on it?
yeah.
Have you learned it? It's all different now. It's all completely changed. Like it's very different business to what it was.
I can imagine,
2017 when I started, which I guess it was
Yeah.
8 years down the line.
Yeah.
But they were the
can
golden
imagine.
days. That's when you
Glory
first
days.
started coaching me as well. Do you remember I did a photo shoot in 2018?
Yeah, I remember. And I used to coach. Remember, I didn't coach him very long, but was it Malik?
Umar
Umar
yeah.
Malik?
Yeah.
Or was his surname
mate,
Malik?
one of the greatest men you'll meet.
He was an absolute mutant, mate. He was probably the first freak that I ever coached.
Yeah.
He was a monster, and he was so strong as well.
I remember, and he would do some just mental things as well. Like I can picture him doing snatch grip deadlifts, but he'd have multiple pauses through his
Yeah.
eccentric. So it'd be like mid shin, like just below the knee, just above the knee, like hip and then up, and then a 10-second eccentric, and
Yeah,
that was his 1 rep set done.
yeah,
And he'd have 4 plates in the bar, and I was like,
Yeah.
like those people who are genuinely like it's a bit corny, but genuinely are just like built differently. Like he is one
yeah.
of those.
Yeah, he had a massive back as well. I remember he had a huge back.
Well, but he also, to be fair to him, like we did a photo shoot because him and I left at a similar time, in 2019. So
Where is he now? What does he do?
he moved back to Leicester and he opened up a gym. But I don't think he's a part of it anymore. I think he's left to start his own thing. I'm
Right.
not. To be honest, it's. I'm embarrassed to say I've not spoken to him in far too long. You know, when you just kind of like lose touch with people a little bit when you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
see. 'Cause I used to live with him, mate. Like we
Yeah, I
lived together
remember.
for a year.
Yeah.
I think he had his own place, but he was getting it going during lockdown,
Right.
and obviously the logistical nightmare that was. And I think it was going well because he's the kind of man like anything he wanted to do would
Yeah,
work.
it would be a
I
success. Yeah.
think. Yeah. But I'm not sure what he's doing. He's another one of those like I can picture getting up at 5 o'clock to go to work and Big Ooms is downstairs cooking mackerel first
Yeah.
thing in the morning and being like, hey, what the hell is going on? Like, why does the
Yeah.
house smell like the sea? But also like when someone's doing that, you're like, yeah, this dude he's not
Yeah.
normal in a good way.
He's wired differently in a good way.
Yeah. But we did a shoot just before we both left and he didn't even bother dieting, didn't get a tan, turned up and was I think he was about 108 kilos and lean.
Yeah.
And we were all like, you bastard. How have you managed to do this?
Yeah, he had a lot of muscle. I remember he had a lot of muscle.
Yeah. And then he got into BJJ, which is even more terrifying.
Oh fucking hell, yeah, he'd be a savage at that.
That across the mat from you. No thanks.
He'd be a savage at that. There's a couple I used to coach out of that UP gym actually. Effie, I think it was as well. Was it Effie?
So yeah, I know where you've got Aoife.
Aoife, yeah.
She was Effie the Alien, I think, on Instagram. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was at Kensington.
that's her.
She worked
Yeah.
for Reed.
Yeah.
She was jacked as well. Not gonna
Yeah,
lie,
she was jacked, man.
It was at its best because everyone was just an absolute animal.
Yeah.
Like, team training days was so much fun because you just go in there and just room each other for an hour.
Yeah,
And try
I can
to
imagine.
train people in the afternoon.
I can imagine.
You trained Dan for a little bit as well, Dan Miles, who also lived.
You went to India?
Yeah, went to Mumbai.
Yeah, went to Mumbai. Yeah, Dan Miles. Yeah, I remember that.
Doing his own thing. I think he's still. Yeah, in fact, no, I spoke to him recently. He is still in Mumbai, opening up his own thing.
Nice.
It's mad, isn't it? Like the amount of people you come into, like contacts and things that especially you would have got over the years. Like doing this for as long as you have, it's like everyone knows everyone. Like even I find, mate, a little bit out here, we're a pro coach top to go train. Someone will come up to me and be like, "Oh, are you a client?" And I'm like, "Thanks."
Yeah, that's crazy, that isn't it? That's crazy.
It's reaching around
Crazy.
the world, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Very cool to see.
To go off the ICM, get some clothing sorted. I guess
I know.
you've got a hoodie, haven't you? So we can get some bits put together. We've all got some extra small polo shirts as well from.
Oh, yeah, my polo's on its last legs now. I still got it, but it's on its last legs.
Yeah, mine actually fits now because I've stretched it so much by wearing it that I can now get into it. So that's great. I still remember that we did that first filming day. Anyone who's still listening, which may not be many of you, after Carl and I doing bedtime stories, go back to the first videos on the ICM, on the Instagram. This is the first reels that we filmed.
Yeah.
Where we all basically had these spray-on polo shirts that we got organised, and I want to say mine was either an XL or a 2X. Yours
It was a double medium.
Yeah, and and double medium in medium terms actually gets smaller rather than
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it goes down, not up. Sadly.
I can picture you putting this thing on and you're walking around. I don't think you can move your arms.
Yeah,
Because-
it's great
you know,
though. Like you occlude your arms. You occlude your arms while you're wearing it, so you do generate quite a nice pump during the time that you're wearing it. It's perfect kind of t-shirt for me.
The sweet spot where you got a savage pump, but as long as you get everything filmed before your arms turn purple,
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah. Just don't make me put my hands above my head because it goes about 6 inches up my waist.
I thought that was also that was the longest day ever. We had an entire filming day. I want to say because I drove. That was before we left for Oz. I drove to yours.
Yeah.
We did all the progress filming in the morning, and then we had to go to all the ICM stuff.
But we videoed those ones in front of the TV and we never even used them.
I know.
I don't even know where those videos are. And it took us like 2 hours.
That was introducing the new modules, wasn't it? And we were all
Yeah.
done by that point. We've done a
We
podcast
never
as
even used
well.
them. I know.
No,
I
I
know.
remember sitting there and the connection kept changing and it kept turning the fucking screen green. So like you've been midway through what you think you've nailed this recording and suddenly you've got a green
Yeah.
background behind you. And Magic's like,
Yeah.
you can't use that. And then
Can't
we're like,
use
well,
that, boy. Can't use that.
And then we had to drive home. And I was like,
Yeah,
not gonna lie,
that was your.
fine, though, 'cause I was actually I could handle that okay because I still had anabolics in my system, so I was just resilient to everything.
Yeah, you were on the super sup still.
Yeah, they were the good days.
Yeah.
But unfortunately not anymore. Back to being a natty. Both of us now, actually. Oh no, actually, I'll use that loosely.
Use that very loosely.
In future
Natty
episodes,
plus.
we're going to see Cal getting bigger and bigger.
Natty plus, that's the only thing that matters now.
Special type. I actually can't find these questions, unfortunately. What we'll do is, I think it's probably worth doing these as open Q&As in the future as well. Because I think there'll be some that inevitably come through that are actually educational and informative that I think people like. Obviously, the first 2 episodes we've recorded have been pretty heavily that way. But I think, I said feedback from the first 2 is people like just hearing us just chat as well at the same time.
Yeah, use this one as a bit of an intro for the year.
Yeah.
And then next week we'll go into something heavy. Well, not heavy, but something heavier in terms of a topic to be discussed.
Yes, we can start to clip bits from lectures and go down that sort of route, which would be good as well.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, we can call this intro 2025. And
2025, the start point.
We covered that for about 30 seconds, and this will probably be our most listened to episode.
Just call it Cal's story from Ukraine.
Cal's events during the Ukraine war.
Oh man!
I hope it's actually recorded as well. We don't actually know.
No, it does say rec on the corner of my screen, so I presume that means it's recording.
Or it's wrecked.
Or it's just wrecked. Yeah, maybe.
It says that you're recording in high quality currently as well, so it's going to be.
Oh, that's good.
Make us both look crisp. 2 very young-looking 30-year-old men, looking very nice and good in that sense. But guys, for everyone who is still with us, thank you for persevering this far. We'll wrap up the recording there. As I said, for future weeks, we'll get Q&A boxes and we'll start going through the bits that are in place this year. Any requests, whether you're listening to this or you're watching this, any requests for bits that you would like to hear us chat about or topics we want covered, drop them underneath for us. And then we will catch you guys in the next episode.